Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to your auditing lecture. We are on the last lecture of our chapter number 4, and it has been quite a journey. We have studied a variety of concepts and essays in this chapter. It's one of the most beautiful chapters, and we are coming to an end to it. And welcome back to the classroom. And I hope you have been studying, you have been revising regularly, you have been continuously keeping in touch with your studies. The classes are structured in a way so that you have time to revise. So make sure you take advantage of that. And let's sit upright, let's sit straight, keep your book, notebook, pen in your hand, keep water bottle in hand, and let's get started. I hope I'm perfectly visible to you, audible to you. There is no glitches, there is no problem, I hope. So with that, let's start. In the last lecture, we started with essay number 530. We completed almost 80% of it. We did go through a lot of important concepts, the main being that audit sampling is covered under essay number 530. And there is two types of sampling, that is statistical sampling and non-statistical sampling. And because of sampling, there is a risk created called as sampling risk. And for a good sample and sampling to be done, it is important that the population also has certain qualities like it is appropriate, it is complete, and it is reliable. All these points we did. Other than that, we did different kinds of methods that you can use to do sampling, and those were, of course, random sampling, interval or systematic sampling, monetary unit sampling, block sampling, and haphazard sampling. All these points were also completed. I'll quickly ask you, if the desired level of assurance, if my desired level of assurance is very high, will the sample size increase or decrease? If my desired level of assurance is very high, will my sample size be more or less? Quickly tell me, students. Let's see. Increase. Perfect. Gayatri has given the first answer. Kashish, Nikunj, Jash, all of you are giving correct answer, absolutely. So if my desired level of assurance is increasing, then sample size will be more. If the risk of material misstatement is high, then the sample size will be more or less. If the risk of material misstatement is high, the sample size will be, of course, more. If the effectiveness of the internal control system is high, if the effectiveness of internal control system is very high, then sample size will be less or more? Less. So that is one last part we did before ending the class last time, which was that how different situations and different information can change our decision of whether we want a higher sample or a lower amount of sample. So I hope you remember all these points, because today we are doing only some concluding points about this. I have also taught you stratification and value weighted method, that also we finished. So we have some very residuary points to be completed, which we will complete in the next around 20-30 minutes. We'll finish off this part, and then we will continue with the remaining two essays, that is essay 550 and essay 610. Essay 550 is very small, and essay 610 has some very specific things that you need to learn. So let's get started. Are you all ready? For the next 2.5 hours full of standards, 3 different standards we will be touching upon. Okay, very good. Good to see your enthusiasm. So let's, hi Josh. Okay, good. So the last point that we completed was the different kind of methods you can use to do the sampling. Okay, ma'am, correct. You have told us that these are the sampling methods we can use. But then what to do in the process actually? How does the process actually happen? Which means this is the performing audit procedures. So while you are performing audit procedures, there is a structure given. So you look into the book and I'll be giving you example to go with these points, okay? So let's start with a small example, that let's say you are checking all the whole checkbook that has been issued by the company for payments. Okay, so checkbooks usually can have check numbers. Everyone knows checks have numbers on them. Checkbooks usually have, for each check there will be a number. Okay, so let's say there are different check numbers. There's check number 0001. There's check number 000. There will be some series to it. Yes or no? It can be anything. It can be 142068. Like that also it can be. So it can be in different ways. The checkbook number will be there. Check number will be there. So let's say you have selected some samples of check numbers and you have selected, right, like 10 check numbers that you want to check. Okay. So the auditor shall perform audit procedures appropriate to purpose on each item selected. So if I have selected 10 checkbook numbers, I will take 10 check numbers. Now on each check, I can check the invoice for which the check was paid. I can check who approved that check. I can check the check copy. I can check in the bank statement when the check was cleared, to whom the check was paid, right or wrong. So I will perform audit procedure as required on each item. Is that correct, everyone? So I have selected one check number, let's say check number 1. And with that check number, I'll check the checkbook, I'll check the invoice, I'll check the bank entry for the check. So that is called as performing audit procedure on each item selected. So for each item, I'll perform. Next, what is written? If audit procedure is not applicable to selected item, you will perform the procedure on a replacement item. What does this mean? Let's say that you selected check number 142068, but you came to know that this check was cancelled. Okay, this check was cancelled. Now, can I apply the check procedures? Can I apply the audit procedures on a cancelled check? No, there's nothing to check. Nothing was issued, no payment was done, nothing is there. So what will I do? I will find a replacement item. What does it mean by replacement item? That, okay, check number 142068 was cancelled. So let's find 142069. Can I get a replacement item? So if you have selected some sample and in that sample you find some item that on which the audit procedure is not applicable, then what can you do? You can find a replacement item. Now, let's say you found a replacement item and on that you applied the procedure. But let's say you are unable to apply design procedures. What does it mean? Not applicable means you selected it, you found it, but the check was cancelled. But let's say you have selected check number 00002. And when you ask for that check details, the details are not available. Supporting invoice is missing. Approval letter is missing. What does it mean now? Unable to apply. Okay. So you have found the item, but you are unable to apply the procedures you want to apply on that item because the supporting documents are not available. So what can we think? We can think that maybe it is a kind of deviation or there is a misstatement. Now what will happen? We will have doubt now. We will think that kyun invoice nahi hai? Why invoice is not there if check has been issued for a payment to a supplier? Why is invoice not available? Why is approval not available? So if approval is not available, which means internal control system mein deviation hai. Okay. And if invoice is not available, it can create doubt that maybe the amount itself is incorrect or the entry itself is incorrect and it's a misstatement fully. So if you are unable to apply the designed audit procedures or suitable alternative procedures to a selected item, you shall treat that item as a deviation from control if you are doing test of control, and you can treat it as a misstatement in case of test of details. Did everyone understand? Till this much, is it clear? Little technical words, but fully in flow. Item select, apply procedure. Item applicable, procedure not applicable, replace the item. Procedure unable to you or apply, then either it's a deviation or it's a misstatement. That much is done. Now let's say, even when you're tying, now this example I've already given. Okay, this example is already done. I've given you the check example already. Now, let's say another example. What example is this? An example of when auditor is unable to apply design is when the documentation relating to that item has been lost. Did I give you example for this also? Here I gave you the example of replacement item, cancel check. Did I give you example for this? Which example did I give you for this? Which example did I give you? Unable to apply documentation, invoice not available. Thank you, Gayatri. Thank you for listening to me. So yes, documentation not available. Example was this one I already gave you, that invoice is missing. So if it is not, it means you can do other procedures. Alternative audit procedure. What did I tell you? We have found a possibility that there is deviation or a possibility there is a misstatement. Just because we didn't find invoice, does it mean automatically there has been some fraud? Does it automatically mean that there has been some fraud? No. We'll perform alternate audit procedures. What can I do? I can send a letter, a confirmation letter to the supplier that we have lost your invoice. Can you confirm, or can you send a copy of the invoice, or can you confirm the details regarding this payment? So if the documentation is lost, a confirmation can be sent. Okay. If it is a cash sale, you can try to verify it through cash book. So if you find any deviation or misstatement, you can cross verify it by other documents and other evidences. Then again, this is another example. So how many points were there? These are the main 3 points. Find audit procedure and apply on each item. If it is not applicable, find replacement item. If unable to, then it might be deviation and perform suitable alternative procedures. You can write here. Till this here, everyone is clear? Can you quickly tell me? Okay. Another example is given. Let's take one more just example and then this topic will be done. Another example of replacement can be if all transactions of computerized sales are being checked. For example, sales recorded through a barcode scanner and some sample of manual billing gets selected. So will it be part of the population? No. Why? Because our population right now is checking of computerized bills. So if in that I select a bill number, which was actually a manual bill, will we count it in our verification? No, we'll do verification for it separately. But will it be part of verification of computerized transactions? No. So find a replacement item. So these are some examples that have been given to you. So that's it. Simple. If it's a normal case, perform audit procedure. If the procedure is not applicable, replace the sample. If procedure cannot be performed, treat as a misstatement or deviation and perform alternative audit procedures to find substantive evidence. Okay, that's it. Now next, in continuity of this only, what can be nature and cause of deviations? See, when you're doing sampling, out of 100 items, you may check only 5 items. It is possible that you are checking only 5 items. You have taken this decision that out of 100 invoices, I am going to check a few items only. Let's say you checked 50 items and you found problems in 5 invoices. Okay. So out of 100 items, you checked 50 items and in 50 items, you found deviation in 5 invoices. Now, as per this, what will you think? What is the deviation rate? What is the deviation rate? What is the misstatement rate you have found? Out of 50 invoices, if you found problem in 5 invoices, what is the deviation rate you have found? 10%. Which means what will you think? That in 100 items, how many are expected to have deviation? If the sample is correct representation, then in 100 items, how many are expected? 10 items you will think that it should have deviation, right or wrong? Okay. But do you think immediately we should jump to this conclusion? No. Whenever we find any deviations and misstatement when we are doing sampling, see if there is anything in common. Anything in common. Let's say all these 5 invoices that you found problem, they were all from, let's say, Ooty branch, and all from December month. Okay. So now you will think that all the 5 invoices out of 100, and the sample I selected was 50, all the 5 deviations were only from Ooty branch, and that too all are from December month. So maybe it is not random, and there might be a system problem that happened during that time, or some employee shuffling was happening, or some employee mistake has happened, because of which this bulk specific mistake has happened, that 5 invoices were problematic from the same branch in the same month. So whenever you see deviations, see if they have any common feature. Common feature like same location, same product line, same time period, same type of transaction. Try to see if it has pattern. Now let's say that out of 100, there are total only 7 bills from Ooty in December. Then the deviation expected would be 10 items or 7 items. Then the deviation expected will be 7 items or 10 items. 7. So will you blankly, without using your mind, just apply the same rate and that will be your final answer? No. Try to find, whenever you find any misstatements and deviation, whether they have a common pattern. Now is it clear? So now instead of checking, so if you have found 5 invoices with mistake and you think it is material, does it mean you'll check all 100 items now to find the exact problem? No. What will you do? Instead of checking all the 100 sample invoices, you will check December invoices of Ooty branch only. And if the same error exists, it means it was some systematic problem. Or it may also indicate fraud, that for those 7 invoices, one employee was doing the job and that employee left after December. So maybe that employee committed fraud. That you will know after doing more, detailed work only. But you have to find a pattern. Now let's say another example. Let's say in billing software, not another example, in this itself I am giving you. So now you investigate. So what was the reason that in Ooty this happened? What was the reason? So when you investigate, you come to know that in billing software, GST rate was wrongly updated in December. Now what will you think? Now what will be your course of action? Will you get worried that GST rate itself was wrong? Do you think it will increase your work or decrease your work? Do you think it will increase your work if you come to know that the reason for this deviation was GST rate was wrong in the system, in the software. It will increase. So now you have to check other things also. Does this affect only December? Does this affect only sales? Does this affect other branches? So now you will have to find answer for all these things and find sufficient appropriate evidence whether this is limited to one-time occurrence at one branch for 1 month, or this has been a systematic problem that has happened in other branches, for other sales, in other months also. Now, do you understand? So when you find some deviation or misstatement, it is your job to dig further, to investigate further, and to look at different patterns which can help you to decide further audit procedure. This much point is clear? Okay. Good. Now next I'm going to teach you one small concept. Again in this only, I've taught you the first thing. In analyzing deviations, auditors should identify that if they have some common feature like type of transaction, location, production line. In such circumstance, you may decide to identify all items in population that has that common features and extend audit procedure to them. It may also indicate possibility of fraud. Therefore, the auditor shall investigate the nature and causes of such deviations and evaluate their effect on other areas of audit. This much first 3 points are clear to everyone? मिसस्टेटमेंट मिले, डेविएशन मिले, देखो कोई कॉमन फीचर है कि नहीं. फिर देखो ये कॉमन फीचर और कहां कहां किस किस आइटम पे अप्लाई होता है और फिर उसको इन्वेस्टिगेट करो. डन? ओके. Now next, fourth point is given. In extremely rare case, you may discover that the misstatement or deviation is an anomaly. What does this mean? Okay. What does this point mean? So let's say you find another strange case. So there is one invoice that shows rupees 50,000 extra revenue recorded. Okay. Now you have to see that you found one invoice. So you were doing sampling and in one invoice you found 50,000 rupees extra revenue recorded. And then you investigate further. Okay. What you investigate is that you find that a new trainee accountant was there and accidentally entered extra zero. So no other such mistake found. Now you tell me, is this mistake, इस mistake के basis पे क्या हम पूरे population में effect देंगे? On the basis of this mistake, will we give effect in the whole population? No. Why? Because this was one time anomaly. क्या बोलेंगे? What will we say? Anomaly, which means a rare isolated mistake. So let's say that auditor found 5 deviations in invoices, out of which 4 were from UT December and 1 was anomaly. So kya ye one anomaly, can we take it as a percentage in total? Can we take it as percentage in the total deviation? No. We will keep that item aside. It is not a representative of the population. But to reach this conclusion that it is an anomaly, इस conclusion पे पहुंचने के लिए कि ये anomaly है, did I have to do a lot of work? Did I have to do work? To reach the conclusion that it is an anomaly, yes, I had to do the investigation thoroughly to prove that it is an anomaly and to reach the conclusion it is an anomaly. Do I have to document this properly? Should I document it properly to prove that it is only a one-time error? Yes. Okay. So now let's say if sample size was 100 invoices, you found misstatements in 4 invoices, and if total population is 10,000 invoices, then what is the projected, this big word I am using as if I'm teaching you like a big formula. What will be projected misstatement? What will be projected misstatement? Very good. 4% of 10,000 invoices is equal to 400 invoices. So this can help me know a projected. Okay? Because I removed one that was due to trainee fault. That was an anomaly. So out of 100, 4 invoices, which means total 4% there is a possibility. Now you have to decide whether actually it was misstatement or not. So you have to take a few extra samples and take a decision whether you think actual 400 misstatements exist or not. It is just your projection. So you have to decide the materiality on the basis of the situation, on the basis of whether what kind of misstatements you found, what were the reasons. Suppose invoices were missing, it's a bigger problem, which means there can be misstatements. But all invoices were available, but approvals were missing. So did we find problem in the test of details or did we find problem in test of control? Where did we find the problem? If in these 4 invoices, invoice itself was missing, it became a what problem? It became an overall problem of misstatement. But all the invoices were correct. All the amounts were correct. Everything is available. Only approval seal is not available. So what weakness does it talk about? It talks about deviation of internal control. So यहाँ पे आपका ऑडिट प्रोसीजर कहाँ बढ़ेगा? मिसस्टेटमेंट्स यानी कि वाउचिंग वेरिफिकेशन बढ़ेगा या इंटरनल कंट्रोल सिस्टम पे आपका ज्यादा काम बढ़ेगा? So again I'm repeating in English. If the approval was missing in 4 invoices out of 100, will your job increase more to do vouching verification or test of control? Actually both, which means internal control system is weak and hence expected rate of deviation of internal control is high. It means my sample size would increase. Now you understood? Everyone clear? Okay. So these are just examples. Does it mean 4% is material, not material? Did anything I write for you, does it mean exactly you have to copy paste in real life? No. This is just an example. When you are actually sitting there doing audit with all the information about turnover of the company, how old is the company, what kind of business the company does, what kind of opinion the last auditor gave to them, if there has been any income tax penalties, with all this information, you will be able to decide whether I want to do more work and more investigation or not, whether 4% is material or not. There is no standard for it. Okay. You have to see as per the situation. That's it. So let's go through that. In extremely rare circumstances, when misstatement is discovered and it is an anomaly, you have to find high degree of certainty that such misstatement is not a representative of the population. Okay. The auditor can obtain this certainty by performing additional audit procedures to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence that this misstatement does not affect the remainder. So these 2 points are for anomaly. Okay. So if you find any anomaly, you have to find the high degree of certainty that it is actually an anomaly. So which means you have to investigate more. And to obtain this high degree of certainty, you have to perform additional audit procedures to ensure that this does not affect the whole population. Okay. So anomaly means any mistake or deviation that is demonstrably not a representative of misstatement or deviations in the whole population. Finished. I have also taught you projecting misstatements. This was the whole projecting misstatements part. Okay, so projecting misstatements is also done. Now evaluating. So when you get results from audit sampling, evaluate the results and see if your sampling has provided a reasonable basis to draw conclusions about the population being tested. So let's say we can take the either decision. So let's say I have checked the sample of 100. I found 4 misstatements. Then as per 100 invoices, it would be 400 invoices. How many of you feel uncomfortable that out of 10,000 invoices, 400 will be misstated or 400 will have some problem? How many of you feel uncomfortable with that number? How many of you feel it's a very big number that out of 10,000 invoices, 400 are expected or projected to have misstatements? How many of you think it's a big number? Kashish says me. Who else? Yes, it's a big number, ma'am. Not big, but I should consider it. Pooja is saying, no, I don't feel it's a big number. So that is what this point is saying. You have to evaluate whether you can use the audit sampling to give a reasonable basis to give conclusion about population. So if you feel, no, this is not enough, I want to check more samples, then only I can feel comfortable that population is true and fair. So if by checking 100 invoices, you got 4 and the 4% deviation is making you feel that I don't think that after my evaluation that this is correct, I should check more. So as an auditor, it is your job to evaluate the results and whether you can use the result of the sampling to give conclusion about the population. Now, is it clear? So who has to do that evaluation? Auditor has to do that evaluation as per the situation. Okay, that's it. So we have finished this part. This whole everything is finished. Now I have to just teach you 1 or 2 theory answers. So we'll go on that part. Yeah. So I have taught you statistical and non-statistical in detail, right? Last time. मैंने आपको अच्छे से डिटेल में हमने डिस्कशन करके statistical and non-statistical we understood. Yes or no? Quickly let me know. Yes. Okay. So now we are just doing some theory part of it. So since we have already done the explanation part, you just focus on the book. I'll let you know and we'll discuss the theory part, what we have to learn for the exam. Okay. So statistical, just first this part. Statistical is an approach to sampling that random selection of sample units and use of probability theory to evaluate sample results. So you select some samples that are on random basis without judgment and bias, and you use theory of probability to evaluate sample results. Okay, what did we use right now? That 100 in 104 deviations, which means in 10,400. What is that? Probability theory. Okay. So when we use random selection to select sampling units and then we use probability theory to analyze the result, that is called as statistical sampling. Okay. Here, please come. Statistical sampling more scientific. Please mark as important for short note. This usually can come as a short note. So statistical sampling is more scientific. So it is more scientific because it is more scientific than on the basis of auditor's own judgment. It uses mathematical laws of probability. So whatever I am telling you, please underline that. You have to use those words when you are explaining this. So why is it more sampling, more scientific? Because rather than using auditor's judgment, you are using mathematical laws of probability. Then it has wider application. Okay. It has a wider application because instead of checking each and everything, you can check specific things in detail. So population can have large number of similar items and more in case of all these pointed. There is no personal bias of auditor. Okay. It is more reliable. So sample can be evaluated and projected on more reliable basis. This much is done. So what did we see? More scientific, not use of auditor's judgment. It evaluates mathematical law of probability. It has a wider application. No personal bias of auditor. Sample can be evaluated and projected in more reliable basis. Finished. Okay. Next come to non-statistical sampling. Again important for short note. Again important for short note. Under this approach, you can use on the basis of personal experience and knowledge of the auditor. How do we decide the sample? Personal experience. This has been in common application for many years. It is simplicity in operation. Please, whatever I am underlining, saath mein you have to underline. Along with me, please underline. Okay. On the basis of his personal experience, they decide the size of the sample. Okay. You have to avoid any kind of pattern of selection year after year, because if you use the same logic every year, your client will know ये तो हर साल यही 3 महीने चेक करते हैं, तो वही 3 महीने को हम अच्छे से रखेंगे. Again in English, if you choose the same kind of samples every year, your client will identify your pattern and will say that this auditor to chooses only these 4 months every year. We will put any frauds in other months. So you should not create any predictable pattern when you are using your judgments, so that the clients does not take advantage of it. Okay. Then it is common practice to check transactions near the close of the year. As an auditor, we never miss on transactions that happened in the last 20 to 25 days before the year ended, because there is high risk of misappropriation. Okay. Then what is the problems? It is criticized that it is neither objective nor scientific. It is not. Then expected degree of objectivity cannot be assured because there is risk of personal bias. What is there? Non-statistical strategy. क्यों criticize होता है? Why criticize? It is neither objective nor scientific. The expected degree of objectivity cannot be assured and there is a risk of personal bias. Okay. This is there. Then closeness of qualities projected by sample cannot be measured against population. You cannot have a clear structure that if in sample there was 4% deviation, it means in population also there will be 4% deviation. You cannot do this because you have not used scientific ways of selecting sample. You have selected sample on the basis of your personal bias and judgment. So you cannot apply probability theory of misstatement projection the way you can apply in statistical sampling. Okay. This method is simple to operate, but sometimes sample may not be a true representative of the total population. Everyone clear? Okay. So this much you have to remember. It's quite easy. So I'll quickly let you know the main words. In non-statistical sampling, dependent on personal experience and knowledge of auditor, it is simple in operation. Auditor uses his personal experience to decide the size of the sample. Auditor should try to avoid establishing any pattern. It is common practice to check large number of transactions that are close to the year end. Non-statistical sample is neither objective nor scientific. Then it cannot be expected to have high degree of objectivity. There is a risk of personal bias. The closeness of qualities projected by sample cannot be measured with population. It is simple to operate, but sample may not be a true representative of the population. So if you remember these kind of points, you can write a proper short note that can come in exam regarding non-statistical sampling. Okay. Sampling versus traditional method. This again I have explained to you fully. So this you can read on your own. There's nothing much here, but just few specific things that I'll like to point for you. So evidence, in most circumstances, evidence available is not conclusive. An auditor always takes calculated risk. So do you remember I gave you an example that even if I do 100% checking, does it give absolute evidence or absolute assurance, students? If I do 100% verification, if I do 100, exactly. So that is traditional auditing. So even by doing 100% checking, the auditor does not derive absolute satisfaction. Do you remember I told you a word, pragmatic auditors? Okay, same thing. Pragmatic auditors adopted theory of sampling. Okay, so they started doing sampling. It can give good satisfaction by undertaking a much lesser checking. It is a mathematical truth. By adapting, auditor only checks a part of the whole mass of transaction, and sampling is used as a part of test of control. Auditor will check few controls and check their effectiveness. On the basis of this, he can then design the sample size. If internal control is satisfactory, small sample will be okay. But if control system are slack or not properly implemented, auditor will have to take much larger sample. This also we have discussed, okay? It can never bring 100% reliability. It cannot give 100% accurate result. It is a process of estimation. It may have some error. What error is tolerable? That is a matter of individual's judgment. आपको कितना error चलेगा? How much error is okay for you? You have to take that decision. Okay. Finished? Now let me come to the answer that you have to remember. What are the factors that an auditor should consider when deciding upon the extent of checking in a sampling plan? Okay. So if you want to take a decision that how much should I check? What does it depend on? First, it depends on the size. So if the entity is like a bank, so if I am checking a company which has 10,000 invoices and I'm doing 10% sampling, but if I'm checking a bank that has, let's say, 10 lakh savings customer, that has 25 lakh FDs, do you think same I can apply 10% filter here? I can use like that only? No, I won't be able to complete the work, right? So how much and to what extent you have to check, it depends on the size of the organization. Does it mean that jitna size badhega organization ka utna sample size badhega? Does it mean that the size of the sample will increase proportionate to the increase in the size of the organization? Does the sample size increase proportionately to the size of the organization? No. No. There are many factors. So size is just one factor. Yes or no? वही मैं आपको पढ़ा रही हूँ. Size is just one factor. What if size is big, but state of the internal control system is excellent? So you are checking a small proprietorship firm with 2 crore turnover, and you are checking a big firm with 40 crore turnover and an excellent internal control system. Where do you think you will have to apply more sampling? Where do you think your sample size would be bigger in terms of percentage? Proprietor. You will have to do more work. So it does not mean that the size of the organization will only that will affect your sample size. There are many things that can affect your sample and how much checking you will do. So size of the organization, state of the internal control system, adequacy and reliability of books and records. So if you think that books of records appear to be, so actually you can only check that as a consequence of internal control. See, overall, we have to give opinion actually on that only, na? We have to give opinion on true and fairness of the balance sheet P&L. Yes or no? Yahi mera kaam hai. I have to give opinion. So if books are good and adequate and reliable, of course, the other things will be better. But here it does not mean uh, that you are checking truth and fairness. It's saying that if I come to you as a client, okay, let's say if I come to you as a client and Karan, you have become a chartered accountant, and I come to you and tell you that my organization has 5 full-time chartered accountants who maintain the accounts. We have purchased QuickBooks and it has all the valid versions. We also have Tally software for specific invoice creation. By listening to all this, do you think my books will be more reliable? Do you think my books will be more reliable? And another person comes to you, Karan, and he says that I also have a firm, but accounts हम मिलजुल के बना लेते. We together just maintain the accounts. जब notice आएगा देखेंगे. When the notice will come, we'll see. Now, do you think they are adequate and reliable? Now, do you think their books will be adequate and reliable? No. So knowing this also can help you take a decision that how much verification you will do. Is that clear now? So if the records appear to be adequate and reliable, that can also help you take a decision how much sampling we need to do and how much checking we need to do. Tolerable error range. If my tolerable error range is very high, my extent of checking will be less or more. If my tolerable range is very high, my extent of checking will be high or low. Low, very good. If my degree of desired confidence is very high, then extent of sampling checking will be high or low. If my degree of desired confidence, मुझे बहुत high level का confidence चाहिए. I need a very high level of confidence. Then of course my sampling will also be high. So what are the factors that decide the extent of checking to be done in a sampling? Size of the organization, state of the internal control. Just relate from one point to another. Company कितनी बड़ी है, उनका internal control system कैसा है, उनकी books कैसी है, my tolerable range कैसा है, मुझे कितना confidence चाहिए. Again, I'll repeat in English. What is the size of the firm? What are the internal control they maintain? How reliable are their books? How much can I tolerate? How much confidence do I want? Can you remember this answer now? What are the factors that affect the extent of checking? You can easily remember, okay? Please mark this as again to be by-hearted. It's not very commonly asked, but most of the students are not able to write the answer accurately. That is the problem. If it is asked, you get confused, you write a very generic answer. These 5 points should be there, okay? Next answer that you have to remember is advantages of statistical sampling. This again is important. Usually comes as a direct question. Usually it comes as a very direct question. So what are the advantages of a statistical sampling? The amount of testing does not increase in proportion to the increase in the size of the area to be tested. This I just explained you 2 minutes back, okay? This I just explained you 2 minutes back. That statistical sampling theory of probability, properly finding correct sample representative of the population, it means that the size of the sample does not increase in proportion to the increase of size, which means if the population has increased 300 times, it does not mean that the sample will also increase 300 times, okay? The sample selection is more objective and therefore more defensible. Defensible means if someone asks you why did you choose it, it is easier to prove statistical sampling than to prove non-statistical sampling, okay? So it can easily be defensible if someone asks you about statistical sampling. The method provides a means of estimating the minimum sample size. So it is easier to find minimum sample size. In statistical sampling, you are taking a calculated risk, which means you know how much sampling error can be there. So there is more structure to it. It provides a better description of a large mass of data than a complete examination of all data. Since non-sampling errors such as processing and clerical mistakes are not large as. Who can explain this point? Let's see. I'll give you a minute. Anyone who wants to raise hand and explain this point. Let's see if you can understand what this point is saying. Let's see your interpretation capacity. We are on 4th chapter now, almost done with first module. Thoda aapka interpretation and soft skills bhi I want to develop. So anyone would like to try? It may provide a better description of a large mass of data than a complete examination of all data, since non-sampling errors such as processing and clerical mistakes are not as large. Does anyone want to try? It's okay if you are wrong. That's completely okay. This is a safe space. No one is going to make fun of you. It's completely okay. But it's very important that you try. Yes, Anil. Yes, Anil.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Like better description in the sense after like the result will be in a shortest form. We can easily judge the decision with those one statement.
Okay.
Yeah.
So good try, but let me give you an example. Does anyone else want to try? Thank you, Anil, for giving it a try. Does anyone else wants to try? Josh wants to try. Okay, Josh.
गुड इवनिंग मैम.
Good evening.
मैम आई कैन बी रॉन्ग ऑल्सो. मतलब इसमें मुझे फर्स्ट लाइन तो समझ में आ रही है कि इट में प्रोवाइड अ बेटर डिस्क्रिप्शन ऑफ अ लार्ज मास ऑफ अ डेटा देन अ कंप्लीट एग्जामिनेशन. इट मीन्स लाइक मैम इफ हमारे पास एक लार्ज बिग फर्म है, उसमें एक बेटर डिस्क्रिप्शन मतलब इट में प्रोवाइड जब वो हमें एक प्रॉपर डिस्क्रिप्शन हमें प्रोवाइड कर देंगे बाय डेटा में, तो उसका ऑटोमेटिकली हम उसे कंप्लीट एग्जामिन कर लेंगे. उसमें हमें सैम्पलिंग करने की नीड ही नहीं पड़ेगी. क्यों? क्योंकि वो एक प्रॉपर कंप्लीट एग्जामिन डेटा हमें प्रोवाइड कर रहे हैं शायद.
Good try, but there's still some wrong interpretation, but good try. Thank you for trying. We'll try.
Sorry.
We'll see if what Pooja says. No sorries, no problem. Yes, Pooja.
Ma'am, in this case, if we use statistical sampling, then we choose samples from a large data.
Yeah,
and
correct.
Then give conclusion or description, whatever. So it is providing मतलब जो लार्ज डेटा में प्रोसेसिंग एरर होते हैं या फिर क्लरिकल मिस्टेक्स होती हैं वो नहीं मिलेंगी. मैम अगर हम सैंपल से मतलब प्रोसेसिंग जो है वो सभी पॉपुलेशन पे एक जैसी हो रही है तो प्रोसेसिंग एरर नहीं आएगा. हम बड़े डाटा के ऊपर थोड़ा सा सैंपल करके मतलब क्लियर चेकिंग करके हम उसके ऊपर डिस्क्रिप्शन दे सकते हैं. इसका मतलब ये है.
Good. Quite close to the correct one. Good attempt, Pooja. Very good. So now I'll just explain to you with a very small example. Let's say I want to test you and I want to test whether you do addition properly. Okay, आप addition अच्छे से करते हो कि नहीं करते हो. Addition check करने के लिए whether you can do good addition. I gave you 20 pages of addition to do. 20 page of addition to do properly. And to one person, I gave 2 pages of addition to do. You are already a master student. This person is only a 10th person student. Where do you think there will be more silly mistake might happen? Where do you think silly mistake would happen? Where do you think more silly mistake would happen? In 20 pages. Why so many of you are saying in 20 pages there are more chances of clerical error, silly mistake to happen. Why do you think? Because there's so much for this person to do. The data is so large that 20 pages he has to do addition. Do you think there will be more chances that there will be more mistakes? Yes or no? So when the data is smaller set, we do it much better than asking to be checked everything. Same logic if you apply here. When there is a large mass of data, and if in that large data, I check only 10 things, but those 10 things I check from start to end, एक date, एक sign, each GST number, each supplier number, each stock, each price. Which do you think will give a better result? Checking 10,000 invoices, but just checking the amount, or checking those 10 invoices, but checking each and everything about it in detail? Which do you think will give a better detail, better description about how the company is running? Those 10 invoices. So what does it say? It may provide, see, it is not, we are just doing probability theory. So it may provide a better description of large mass of data than a complete examination of all data. Because what happens when we check everything? जब हम large mass data fully verify करते हैं, what errors can happen? They are called as non-sampling errors, like processing mistake, clerical mistakes that can happen. Everyone is clear now? So statistical sampling, what is the advantage? That sometimes it can give a better description of the whole population than checking the complete data, because when we check complete data, there can be non-sampling errors also. Clear? Okay. Then last, what is the advantage? It is widely accepted way of sampling as it is more scientific and there is no personal bias. Finished? That's it. So now we are done with essay number 530. We have done in very, very detail. I think I have given you more than 30 examples in just teaching you 530 essay. So we have done in huge detail. So I hope you have understood it conceptually, but you have also understood that how it can be used. So basically, three main things can come from exam perspective when you have to remember the points. It's the advantages, then the methods of sampling part, and of course, the factors that affect the sampling. Rest you have to understand in detail as a concept properly, because they can come in case study properly. They can come in, case study in detail. MCQs can come. So point-wise learning are mostly three answers. Rest is to understand the meaning of the essay properly so that you can attempt even complicated case studies. Okay. So we are done with this, and now we will move on to page number 4.33, which is just the essay previous to this, just before essay number 530, using the work of internal auditor. Using the work of internal auditors, essay number 610. Now, if you look at it, it might appear like a very long essay. But to understand this essay is quite easy, and it has a few theoretical answers to memorize. But conceptually, it's very simple. It's very straightforward, and you can easily take up any MCQ questions very easily. You will be able to solve. Okay. Just there are a few theory answers that we have to pay attention to. So before I go into the essay, let me tell you a brief about it. So as usual, we will first understand the essay, then we will go into the book. So what does this essay say? Let's say I am auditor of Green Clean Limited, okay? Let's say I'm auditor of Green Clean Limited. So if I go as an auditor, let's say Akhila goes, see Akhila. Okay, see Akhila is going year end as external auditor. Okay. Now you have limited time and a deadline plus transactions have already occurred in past. So what is the situation Akhila facing? That she has been appointed auditor of Green Clean Limited. She's a year-end auditor. She's an external auditor who's an independent auditor who will make the audit report and give audit opinion. But the two main things with Akhila is that she is facing a limited time. She has to complete the work by a deadline by which audit report has to be submitted to registrar of companies and also tax audit to the income tax. Plus the transactions that she is checking, it has already happened in the past. Okay. Now Akhila knows that I might be able to do only sampling. And before I can do in detail, this is the first time she's an auditor. Okay. You are first time auditor for this company. Now Akhila comes to know there is also CA Nikunj, who is internal auditor of the company. The company has a proper internal audit department. CA Nikunj is the head. CA Nikunj is the head. And underneath CA Nikunj, there is a team of 5 people. Okay. Now what do you think CA Nikunj is doing? CA Nikunj is doing everyday regular audit. Yes or no? So usually CA Nikunj is involved on day-to-day basis with the whole organization. Okay, CA Nikunj knows in detail about the internal control system of the company, yes or no? Because CA Nikunj is doing every day, continuously involved with the company. Internal auditor may be external, may be consultant, or an employee. It depends on the company, okay? आप क्या रखना चाहते हो? So you can appoint an external person as your consultant or you can keep a full-time employee, okay? But usually internal audit department hai, so what does it suggest? If there's an internal audit department, what does it suggest? That they are an employee, correct? Okay? So CA Nikunj is an internal auditor. He is heading internal audit department. He is having team of 5 people and he is doing everyday management. Now, do you think that CA Nikunj, if he's an internal auditor, he's just checking cash, just checking stock and the work stops? No. Because CA Nikunj is involved on day-to-day basis, CA Nikunj might also be involved in risk management. CA Nikunj might also be involved in internal control. See, if internal control is, if you find any problem in internal control, which means you will inform the risk management team that this was the problem in internal control because of which risk is increasing, create some control so that the risk is reduced. Yes or no? Is internal auditor's report for public use or for internal use of the management to improve their process? So, like external auditor just gives true and fair view, can internal auditor just give true and fair view or they have to be involved in the company to give suggestions and to improve the company? Can they just give true and fair view? Sahi galat bol ke chhod denge? They are usually more involved. They give suggestions to actively improve the company, to make their processes better, right or wrong? Okay. So if there was some problem found in GST, they will not just write GST mein problem hai. No, they'll sit with the management. They'll find where the problem is. If the software is the problem, they'll tell the management, please get your software updated. Okay. So internal control mein involve honge. Risk management process, they will improve. They will also help in governance. Because when they are checking on ground, let's say the CA Nikunj went for a factory visit to check production and operations are happening properly or not. And he saw that the workers were very demotivated. And he saw that the workers were not working properly. They were taking a lot of breaks. When they talked about the higher management, they talked with a lot of anger. Do you think CA Nikunj will just ignore this information? Ha, this is not related to balance sheet P&L. I'll ignore this information. Can CA Nikunj do that? No. Because this will make internal control weak, which means risk will be high. So CA Nikunj can actually indirectly help the governance, TCWG and management to do better governance, yes or no? He can advise that improve your ethics, improve your values, improve your communication, improve the company policies, please improve them, company's promotion policies, company's health conditions, you please improve, environment you improve. So internal audit function is not limited to just tallying the books with the vouchers. It becomes a more comprehensive way of doing things. Now, since you understand what is internal audit, now let's say CA Akhila has come as an auditor. Do you think that Akhila will have in mind that CA Nikunj to must have done so much work already? Let me use his internal audit reports that he has given for the whole year to help me give some planning help. Is it possible? See, Akhila will think what? That internal auditor Nikunj has prepared reports every week for whole year. Let me read those reports so that it can give me a direction. It can help me understand the entity. It can help me know what were the major problems. And I can use that information to help me plan my audit. Yes or no? CA Akhila can do that. But what if CA Akhila says, CA Nikunj is so good at work. I don't want to just use his reports. I want to take Nikunj's help in completing the audit. I want to take direct assistance of Nikunj to help me in my audit work in this company. Can CA Akhila do that? Can CA Akhila say to Nikunj, come be a part of helping me to do this audit of the same company? Do you think CA Nikunj, CA Akhila can do that? Think. Tell me yes or no. It's okay even if you're wrong. There's no right or wrong. Hemin is saying no, ma'am. This would be wrong. Who else? Yes, Akhila can take help of CA Nikunj. Is Nikunj an independent party? First tell me. In the company. Is it necessary that Nikunj will have all the code of ethics and independence that applies on me? On Akhila, sorry. No. Not necessarily. If my father is running a business, can I be internal auditor of my father's company? Please tell me. Yes, there is no law restricting it. External auditor, can I be of my father's company? Can I be external auditor? No, that is very clear. Okay. So internal auditor do not have the same rules as an external auditor. But of course, they also have code of ethics. Okay. There are code of ethics applicable, but external auditor has more serious ramifications. So this essay helps you. This essay tells you आप internal auditor का काम कितना use कर सकते हैं. How much can you use the work of internal auditor? Now do you understand what is this essay? Now do you understand what is this essay? So this essay is talking about that I want to use the work of internal auditor. But how much, when I can, when I can't, how I can use, what do I need to verify before I can take the help of the internal auditor? All these points are covered in essay number 610 using the work of internal auditors. Now is it clear? So essay का मतलब अच्छे से clear है? If that is clear, we'll move on to the next. internal audit function. It's a little theoretical essay. Wherever I tell you that you have to learn that part, please learn that part, okay? So the first thing you have to learn is this. The function of an internal audit function means a function of the entity that performs assurance and consulting activities. So in internal audit, are we doing only assurance work? Bold, diya, true and fair view, is that the only work we are doing? No. We are doing assurance and consulting. Assurance and consulting, which is designed to evaluate and improve. In audit, we only evaluate, right? Is the purpose of audit to improve the company? Is that the primary objective, that I want to improve the company? No. If the company is having loss, and they have reported loss, I will say true and fair view, all okay. अगर कंपनी 2 लाख के लॉस में है, उन्होंने 2 लाख रिपोर्ट किया है, बुक्स में सब कुछ ठीक है, तो मैं कौन सा ओपिनियन दूंगी? Company has reported 2 lakhs loss. The loss is actually 2 lakh. I've checked the books. Everything is okay. Which opinion will I give? True and fair view. So do I comment on how to improve your company? आपका loss कैसे कम करे? Is that part of my job? No. But in internal audit, you don't just do assurance. You do consulting. Why do you do that? So that you can evaluate and you can improve the effectiveness of entities' governance, risk management, and internal control. Where did I teach you this part? Here. Okay. The internal auditor improves internal control, risk management, and governance. All these 3 areas are evaluated and improved by internal auditor. So now I hope you can remember it. So internal audit function's job is to give assurance and consultancy. Why? So that you can evaluate and improve what? Entities governance, entities risk management, and entities internal control process. Very easy. Now objectives and scope. Please remember this answer. Very popular. Objectives and scope of internal audit function. Please remember, very, very popular as MCQ, as direct question. In any way it can come. Very popular question, okay? So objective and scope of internal audit. What does it include? Activities relating to governance, activities relating to risk management, and activities relating to internal control. So when you are internal auditor, the internal auditor can assess the governance of the entity, like your ethics and values, your performance management, how are you communicating your risk and control information, what is the effectiveness of information by TCWG, external and internal auditor and management. So you are not just involved in checking whether the cash balance is tallying with the book. You are involved in the higher process, whether the management TCWG are doing their job properly. Activities related to risk. Internal audit may assist the entity by identifying and evaluating significant exposures to risk, and you can contribute to improvement of risk management. Okay. You can also assist the entity in detection of any fraud. Activities related to control. You can help in evaluation of internal control. You can help in examination of financial and operating information. Can anyone tell me the difference between a financial information and an operating information? What is the difference between a financial information and an operating information? Can anyone give with a small example? Anyone would like to try? You can raise your hand also and tell. So many students are there. Financial information and operating information. Yes, Pooja. You raised your hand. Now the hand is gone.
Ma'am, financial means the whole year one, and the operating means day-to-day life, day-to-day business transactions.
Okay. I'm looking for a better answer, but not bad. Anyone else would like to give a try? What is operating information? So I'm receiving operating is day to day by Kashish. Operating means P&L. Him is saying operating information is day-to-day business operation and financing is like the issue of shares. Okay. So I will ask you now. If I'm telling you that I make biscuits and today we consumed 1,000 kgs of sugar and we created 200 packets of biscuit, is this a financial information or an operating information? Is that a financial information or an operating information? We consumed 1,000 kgs of sugar. We made 300 packets of biscuit today. Operating. And if I tell you, we used up 5 lakh rupees of sugar today, which information it becomes? Now do you understand? Ab samajh aaya? So the difference is not that operating is day to day and financial is not day to day. The difference is in the type of information. Okay. So the amount of labor that is being used, operating information is how much capacity of production you are using. What is the input output ratio of raw material to final product? All that is operating information. Today, 10 people were on leave. Today, there were 500 new laborers who joined. That is all operating information. And financial information is, of course, the value of your cash, value of your stock, value of your sales, value of your purchases. So as an internal auditor, do they check only financial information? Is internal auditor checking only financial information? Internal audit function? No. They're checking both financial and operating information. Then review of operating activities. Operating activities is because of which operating information is created. So suppose the operating information is that 300 biscuit packets were created. That is an operating information, yes or no? But to create that biscuit packet, today machineries were serviced by a service provider. What is it? It is an operating activity. Okay. So operating activity, which means the production is happening, the packing is happening, the inflow and outflow of labor, all that part is operating activities that also needs to be checked, that how the company is running. So the thing that you told me now, that day to day how the company is running, so that was operating activity, not operating information. Is that clear? Operating information is created out of operating activity. Is that clear? So day to day economy, efficiency and effectiveness of operating activities, that is operating activities. Okay. And compliance with laws and regulations. So do you think that internal auditor's job will be to ensure that TDS is properly deducted on a regular basis? GST is properly collected on regular basis? All the forms are properly filed with ROC? So if there is a change in director, does the form needs to be filed properly? If there is a change in director, an old director has resigned, a new director has come in the company, do you have to file something with our register of companies? Yes. So will that also be part of internal audit function to ensure that all the legal compliances are done on time? Yes. Okay. So compliance with laws and regulations. So what all shall be the objective of internal auditor, internal audit department? Okay. Internal audit department will do all the activities related to internal control, will have objective regarding activities related to risk management and all the activities relating to governance. Activities related to internal control means evaluation of internal control, examination of financial and operating information for same, review of operating activities, and then review of compliance with laws and regulations. So this answer is important. I hope you have understood correctly. Okay. Okay, good. Now come to this scope and ways in which an external auditor may use. So this If I teach you scope, you'll automatically understand the previous one. So what is the scope of SA 610? Please mute yourself. I can hear some noise. Who is unmuted? Okay. All right. So, scope of SA 610, it deals with two things. Using the work of internal audit function to obtain evidence, or using the internal auditors to give direct assistance. So I asked you a question now. Can I take direct help? Can Akhila take direct help of Nikunj to do her external audit work? Who tells me whether I can do this or not and how I can do it? Which essay tells that whether external auditor can take help of internal auditor directly? Which essay tells us? Essay number 610. Which essay tells me whether I can use the work of the internal auditor. I am not using the internal auditor directly. I am using the work of the internal auditor, which means the reports they have created, the papers they have created, or whatever they have done. Can I use that? Who says that? Essay 610. Okay. So this essay 610 does not give you a yes or no. It tells you that if you want to do it, how you can do it. Okay. Now you tell me, if Akhila used Nikunj's help, so if in this situation, Akhila used the help of Nikunj and Nikunj assisted Akhila during the audit, and then Akhila gave true and fair view, and later on there was some fraud found, can Akhila say that वो तो निकुंज ने बोला था ऐसे करने को इसलिए मैंने कर दिया? Nikunj told me, told me, that's why I gave true and fair view. Can that work? Who is responsible solely for your opinion? Who will be solely responsible for the opinion? Akhila herself. Can she put the responsibility on Nikunj? No. So the next point says, external auditor has the sole responsibility for audit opinion expressed, and responsibility is not reduced by using the work of internal function or internal auditors. Okay. So this is very important for MCQ and concept. This is not very important in terms of a short note, but this is so important information, right? It's such an important information that even if you use SA 610, even if you use the work of internal auditor, even if you use internal auditor directly, it is you who are responsible for the opinion. That is not anyone else's responsibility. Okay. So these are all other examples, but simple is you have to take the responsibility. So that is the main point. Now, objectives of external auditor when the entity has internal audit function. So will this essay be applicable if the company does not have an internal audit function? Will this essay be applicable अगर company में कोई internal audit department या internal auditor है ही नहीं? Will this essay be applicable? Of course not. Okay. So this essay will not be applicable if there's no such thing. So now, what is the objective? First, you have to decide whether the work of internal auditor or direct assistance can be used. If so, which area it can be used? To what extent it can be used? If you are using the work of internal audit, determine whether that work is adequate for the purpose of audit. If using internal auditor to provide to appropriately direct, supervise the work, and यही हम अब पूरा audit पूरा ऐसे में पढ़ेंगे. This only we are going to study now. So if you are deciding that you want to use the work or you want to take direct assistance, first decide if you can, and if you can, in which area can you, and to what extent. Okay, so how can we decide that? Anil is asking, ma'am, how can external auditor use the documents? You can. Internal, do you remember in essay 210, I taught you that auditors should have unrestricted access to all documents within the entity. Do you remember that, Anil? Auditors should have an unrestricted access to all the documents within the entity, yes or no? Can I be restricted to not see any documents within the entity? No. So internal audit is an internal document. Is it an external confirmation matter? No. So all the internal audit reports can be used. In fact, when we go, even for a simple bank audit, we first ask them to give us all the previous concurrent audit reports in detail and all, so that we study it and it helps us in planning the audit. Okay. So you have access to internal audit reports. So here the main part starts. So यहाँ पे अभी base was getting set. Here is where the answer comes. Okay. Evaluating the internal audit function. The external auditor shall determine whether the work of internal audit function can be used. How to decide? Now the second question is how to take that decision, ma'am, whether I can use the internal audit function or not. First, you have to see whether there is objectivity in internal auditors, whether they are competent, and whether they have systematic and disciplined way of doing audit. Okay. So internal audit, if I want to use, this is objective number 1. Am I teaching you about direct assistance right now? No. What are we doing? We are doing the first part of the objective. If I want to use the internal audit function, if I want to just use the work done by the internal auditor, am I taking direct assistance of the auditor right now? No. If I just want to use the work done by internal auditor, you have to check 3 things. First, the person who is internal auditor. So, हमारे कौन थे internal auditor? Nikunj ji. So, CA Nikunj is the auditor. Akhila will check 3 things about Nikunj. So, Akhila has decided I will not use Nikunj directly in my team, but I want to use the work done by Nikunj. Okay. So, Akhila will check 3 things about Nikunj. Whether this Nikunj was objective in doing work. Objective means, was he sort of unbiased and independent? So suppose, Akhila, you want to check the objectivity and you come to know that Nikunj is relative of the director and the promoter of the company. Now, do you think he will be objective? Now, do you think he will be objective? Can you trust fully? No. Okay. Okay. Now, let's say that Nikunj is objective, but you come to know Nikunj is objective. But Nikunj is not anyone's relative. But Nikunj does not have proper qualification and proper certification. He is just someone who has graduated and not has any experience, knowledge, or degree to do the work. So, do you think that Nikunj is competent to do the work? If you come to know that Nikunj does not have any degree, Nikunj does not have any experience, he's just a fresh graduate from a college, do you think Nikunj will be competent? ऐसे पर्सन का रिपोर्ट आप यूज करना चाहोगे? ऐसे पर्सन के रिपोर्ट पे आप रिलाई करना चाहोगे? Will you want to rely on the work of such person if they have this competence? No. And the third, you come to know Nikunj is objective. Okay, Nikunj is objective, Nikunj is competent, but Nikunj is very careless with work. He does not maintain proper files, proper documentation. There is no discipline in the way he does the work. There is no systematic way he does the work. Now, do you think it will affect your reliability on his work? Do you think it can affect your reliability on his work? Yes. So Akhila will test 3 things about Nikunj to see if she can use his work for herself. So what will Akhila do? Akhila will see if Nikunj is objective, if Nikunj is competent, and if he is systematic and disciplined in the way. So I'm just giving Nikunj as an example, but here it means if there's an internal audit department, whether the internal audit department is objective, whether the department is competent, and whether system and disciplined approach is there. If the company has only one person as an auditor, then that one person is the internal audit function. If the company has 5 people as internal auditor, then the 5 people are internal audit function. Okay. So remember, how do you evaluate the internal audit function? 3 things: objectivity, competence, systematic and disciplined approach. So to check all this, auditor has to use professional judgment. We all know that. So come here. Objectivity and its evaluation. How to check objectivity? Please mark this as important. So now you studied this, right? Objectivity, competence, and systematic. Now you will study 1. Objectivity. How to check objectivity. How to check competence. And how to check disciplined approach. Now do you understand what we are studying? Here we studied three evaluation. 1, 2, 3. Okay. We have to check objectivity, we have to check competence, we have to check systematic approach. How to check it? How to check objectivity? This is the point we are studying. Okay. How to check? Till here everyone is with me? Okay. Now I'll quickly explain to you. Just pay attention. Objectivity. How to check objectivity? First, you have to check organizational status. You have to check organizational status, which means how much authority does Nikunj have and how much accountability does Nikunj have. Okay? Whether the system supports being free from bias or undue influence. Okay, how does first point is how to check the organizational status. So if you come to know that the internal auditor wanted to report on something, and then the management told, we have just kept you for formality, you just make your report all okay, and give to us. Do you think that person can be reliable then? Can you trust his reports? No. Because in organization, he has no authority only. And if that person does not have any authority to question and get proper answer, do you think that person can be objective? No. If you have no authority, you cannot be objective. So to check objectivity, first you have to check the organizational status. Second point you have to check. Second point is you need to check whether TCWG was involved in employment decisions. So who does day-to-day work? Day-to-day कौन काम करता है? Who is day-to-day responsible for operations? Management. Which means, अगर internal audit report में, if in internal audit report you find problems, who will be accountable? Management. And internal auditor is also appointed by management. Means, I have to report against the people who have appointed me. Yes or no? I have to report against people who have appointed me. So, if you come to know that Nikunj was appointed not by management, but by TCWG was involved in hiring Nikunj, does it increase your reliability on Nikunj's work? If you come to know that not management, but TCWG was involved in the hiring decision of Nikunj, does it increase the possibility that Nikunj will be more objective and independent? Yes. Okay. Third, how to check the objectivity. Whether there are any restrictions or constraints are there by either management on TCWG. Suppose Akhila wants to meet and have a discussion with Nikunj, But the management says we don't allow our internal auditor to talk to external auditor. Do you think that Nikunj is independent? फिर आप निकुंज की रिपोर्ट्स पे कोई भरोसा कर सकते हो? If the management tells, no, you cannot meet Mr. Nikunj, or there is restrictions by management on who Nikunj can talk to. So that will reduce the objectivity of the internal audit function. And last, how to check the objectivity is whether internal audit function is free of any conflicting responsibilities. So suppose internal auditor is also the person who is going and doing all the income tax representation, fighting case for the company and all. Do you think they will be objective? No. So if they are doing anything that is conflicting their own role, then their work cannot be objective. So how to check whether the work of the internal auditor is objective? Check what is the organizational status of internal audit function, whether there is any accountability and responsibility. Check if TCWG was involved in the employment decision. See whether any restrictions and constraints are there on internal audit function by management, and whether internal audit function is free from any conflicting responsibility. So can you remember what are the 4 points? Quickly tell me. What are the 4 points? How to verify objectivity of internal audit function? What is their organizational status? Who is involved in their employment decisions? Whether TCWG is involved in hiring decision? Whether there is any restrictions or constraints by TCWG and management on the internal auditor? And whether the internal audit function is free from conflicting responsibility. Okay. Then how to check competence? How to check competence? So how to check someone's competence? Competence means first I will see whether internal auditor has adequate technical training and proficiency in auditing. Whether the internal audit function has proper training, and proficiency means expert level, detail oriented knowledge in auditing. So first you can check that. Okay. So if I'm talking to someone, so suppose if you talk to me, what do you think? Do you think I have knowledge of auditing? By talking to me, do you think I know what is auditing and what is how to do the audit? Can you come to know? मेरे बात करने से, मेरे आपको पढ़ाने से आपको समझ में आता है कि मुझे ऑडिटिंग आता है कि नहीं आता? Yes. Same way, when you are an external auditor, you can also talk to internal auditor, and you can come to know by talking to them and knowing about their knowledge and knowing about their degrees, whether they have enough training and enough knowledge in auditing. Okay. When only CAs can be appointed as auditor, there's no such rule. There's no such rule. Okay. There's no such rule that only CAs are internal auditor. People prefer, because of course we have the best knowledge, but there's no rule, legal rule, that only CAs can be internal auditor. Okay. But we are preferred mostly. So yes, how to check the competence? Whether the internal auditor has adequate technical training and proficiency on audit. Then training हो गई, इसके बाद same knowledge. Whether internal auditors have knowledge related to financial reporting and applicable financial reporting framework. Okay. So whether they have knowledge about the entities, financial reporting and AFRF. If they don't have knowledge, of course, they are not competent, which means their reports will not be useful to me, because उनको आता ही नहीं है काम, तो उनकी report किस काम की? So if they don't have adequate training, if they don't have enough knowledge, don't use their work. Third, you have to check what are the policies of the company, policies of entity regarding hiring, training, assigning. So what is the company policy? So if you come to know that the company releases an ad in the newspaper, then out of the 100 candidates, they have to write an exam. After passing the exam, they have to give a technical round interview. Then they have to give an HR round interview. Then they have to give a management round interview. And after 3 rounds of interview, Nikunj was selected. Now, do you think Nikunj is competent? After you come to know that Nikunj went through 3 rounds and 1 written exam to become internal auditor, you will automatically feel, okay, he's competent. So to know whether someone is competent or not, ask them how they were hired. So if they had to go through a long process to get hired, which means they are competent. Okay. And fourth, how to check if someone is competent? If internal audit function is adequately, look at my spelling, adequately and appropriately resourced. So you think that Nikunj is very competent, but when you go, you see that he has not been given a system of his own. You come to know that for a 100 crore company, he's the only person. He does not have any team members with him. Do you think even if a person himself is competent, the whole department is competent? Even if Nikunj is competent, but do you think that internal audit function is competent? If it is under-resourced, if it does not have proper resources to do his job, Nikunj has to wait every day for half an hour for someone to give him computer so that he can make his report. Is that a good thing? Do you think even if he is competent, the internal audit function is competent? No. So how to check? So auditor will check competence. Competence means what is the training, what is the knowledge, what is the end process of entity to hire you, and whether you have been given enough resources. Okay. So what did we study? How to check objectivity, check the organizational status, check whether TCWG is involved in employment decision, whether there are any restrictions or constraints, and whether you have any conflicting responsibility. How to check competence? How to check competence, whether adequate training is given, whether you have adequate knowledge, how were you hired, and whether entity gives you enough support through resources to do your job properly. If these things are weak, will I use the resources or the reports created by internal auditor? If the competence is not there and objectivity is not there, I won't. Now, if objectivity is there, competence is there, what is the last thing to check? Application of systematic and disciplined approach. Systematic and disciplined approach. Okay. So how to check this? This you can check with just 2 things. Okay. 2 factors. First factor is if there is existence, adequacy, and use of proper documented internal audit procedure. So suppose Akhila sits with Nikunj and she says, please tell me how do you do internal, what is your process? And he says, I have written down, I have created a whole manual of what process to follow. Will Akhila be impressed? If Nikunj says, I have fully documented, I have made the whole book on how internal audit needs to be done in this company. Do you think Akhila will be impressed? Yes. So that shows that he has a disciplined approach and a systematic approach. So existence, adequacy, and use of a proper documented internal audit procedure, which means you have a document that how to assess risk assessment or how to decide reporting structure, whether I will give report once in a week, 2 times in a week, once in a month, once in a quarter, once in a fortnight. If you have created a structure that is properly written, that means he is a disciplined and systematic person. Second important thing, whether internal audit function has appropriate quality control policy. So, like a company to do their job properly should have internal control, yes or no? Internal control पता है ना सबको? For a company to do their job properly, they should have good internal controls. Same way, for an auditors to do good audit, quality audit, we should have good quality controls. This you will study in chapter number 11 in detail. Okay? अभी नहीं पढ़ा है आपने. Like a company needs to have good internal control to be properly functioning and to reduce the fraud and error. Same way as auditors, we should have good quality control policies, that how will we ensure that the audit done is of good quality. So if internal audit function has good and appropriate control, quality control policies, which means it is more systematic. You will study this in essay number 220 and SQC1 in chapter number 11. Okay, that is your last chapter. So how to check whether the internal audit function is systematic? Existence and adequacy of use of document for internal control procedure, internal audit procedure, and whether internal audit function has appropriate quality control. That's it. So this is actually one of the most important answers. I have taught you everything. You can just mark here that this needs to be studied and learned. Completed, students? Quickly bata do. I know a little tiring, but I have written down everything. Okay? Okay. So to use an internal auditor's work, check objectivity, check competence, check systematic approach. Now, when not to use the work? When the work of internal auditor cannot be used? It's such an easy answer. When the organizational status is not supported, when there is lack of competence, when it does not apply systematic and disciplined approach, reverse. Okay. So when organizational status is not there, when competence is not enough, and when systematic and disciplined approach is not applied, that time you cannot use internal audit work. Okay. Then come to this. Examples of work of internal audit function that can be used by external auditor. Remember this for MCQs. Okay. Please remember this for MCQs. Any confusing MCQ can come from this. Okay. So what kind of areas we can use internal audit work? So when you're testing internal controls, to understand internal controls, whether they are reliable or not, you can use internal auditors work. You can use in substantive procedures in which you don't have to apply much judgment. You can use that for inventory counts observation, which means you can attend only one inventory count, but they might have attended 5-10 inventory counts, right? The internal auditor. So you can study their report to understand what kind of things they saw in the inventory count. So you can use that as an area. Then tracing transactions through information system. So you can use their reports and their observation that how the information system works. And you can test for compliance of regulatory, which means like GST, ROC, TDS, PPF, ESIC. For all this, you can use internal auditors' observations. So for what things can I use internal auditors' observation? Their observation on internal control. I can use them, their observations on inventory count, their observations on internal systems. I can use their observations regarding compliance of regulatory requirements. Okay, so these are examples that you can use. Now, circumstances in which external auditor shall plan to use less work of internal audit function and perform more work directly. In which situation we should use less work, okay? Kam karna chahiye. When there is more judgment involved. Okay, when there is more judgment involved regarding planning and performing audit procedures and evaluating audit evidence. Do you think I can use internal audit work, auditor, to help give me a final conclusion on audit evidence? No. If the higher assessed risk of material misstatement is there, do you think I can rely on internal auditor's work? If I have found high risk of material misstatement at assertion level? Of course, no. If there is less internal audit organization status that support objectivity, this we have already studied. If the competence is low, can I rely on audit work? No. So this is sort of a repetition. So in which situation should I use less of internal audit work? When it involves a lot of judgment, when there is higher assessed risk of material misstatement, when the organizational status of internal audit function is weak, and when the competence is low. So in this situation, I should use less work of internal audit function. Okay? All right. Okay. This part you can read. It's again quite part that I've already explained to you a lot. So you can just go through them. Now come to this part. Determining whether, in which areas and to what extent internal auditors can be used to provide direct assistance. When can you use internal auditors to give direct assistance? Mostly, please remember, if it is prohibited by law, if Companies Act says that you cannot use direct assistance, then can SA 610 overpower Companies Act? Can SA 610 overpower Companies Act? No. So pehle to check that under whichever act you are doing the audit, does it even allow you to take the direct assistance of the auditor, internal auditor? So first check if it is prohibited. If it is not prohibited, then you can use internal auditors directly, but you have to evaluate the existence and significance of threats of objectivity and the level of competence. So what if it is ma'am, what if it's contradictory? Then the law will prevail, Anil. Okay? Law will prevail. Always law will prevail. Okay? So if you want to have direct assistance, then you have to check existence and significance of any threats to objectivity and competence. Vapas same. You have to check objectivity, you have to check competence. Okay? So when can you not use direct assistance? Rest, if you have a good understanding of the essay, you can write any answer. Specific answer is that objectivity, competence, and systematic approach. Okay? The external auditor shall not use internal auditors to provide direct assistance if it is significant judgment, if it has higher assessed risk of material misstatement, if it relates to the work for which internal auditor have already been involved and already given a report to TCWG and management. So if it is something that internal auditor has already checked, they've already discussed with management, then those areas you cannot use internal auditor. And it relates to decisions that external auditor makes in accordance with this essay. So it means, can Akhila go to Nikunj and ask Nikunj that whether I can take your direct assistance or not? Can Akhila go to Nikunj and take help to take decision regarding SA 610? No. That decision you have to take on your own. That you cannot discuss with the internal auditor that can I take you or not. Okay. So in which situations you should not use? First, if it is an area of significant judgment, don't take direct assistance. If it is related to higher risk of material misstatement where a lot of judgment is involved, don't take direct assistance. If it relates to work that has already been verified by internal auditor and reported to management and TCWG, don't take assistance. And if it relates to matters of SA 610, don't take direct assistance. Okay. Now this too is important for MCQ. So if you want to use someone as the internal auditor, if you want to use as internal auditor for direct assistance, you need two agreements. First, you need an agreement from the company that internal auditor will be allowed to follow my instructions and company will not interfere. Then I'll take a written agreement from internal auditor that they will keep the matters fully confidential as requested by auditor and inform the auditor if there is any threat to their objectivity. What are the two agreements we'll take? So if Akhila wants to use Nikunj for her external audit work, she has to take firstly an agreement from the company who hires Nikunj that you will not interfere in my work and you will let Nikunj work under my directions. And she has to take an agreement from Nikunj that you will maintain confidentiality about whatever I discuss. And if you feel that there is any threat to your independence and objectivity, please come and tell me. We will stop the work with you immediately. Is that clear, everyone? SA 610. Everyone clear? Absolutely? Okay. Actually, यहाँ पे आपका main essay is finished. Here your essay is finished. Here it's just given basics of internal financial control and reporting requirements. So this is nothing but just remember this. Internal financial control and reporting requirements. They are just giving you difference between internal financial control and internal control over financial reporting, which means this internal financial control. It means internal controls over anything that is related to finance. And internal control over financial reporting, it means internal control on books of accounts and trial balance and balance sheet and P&L. What do you think is the bigger thing? What do you think is more inclusive? Internal control, internal financial control is the bigger one, or internal control over financial reporting is the bigger one? Internal financial control is inclusive of internal control over financial reporting. Anyone else? Okay, just see this. Internal financial control means policies and procedures put in place by companies for ensuring overall reliability of financial control, effectiveness of operations, compliance with law, everything. But internal control over financial reporting is required where auditors are required to express an opinion on the effectiveness of entities' internal control over only financial reporting. Where did you study this definition? In chapter number 3, I taught you that internal controls means reliability of financial reporting, effectiveness and efficiency of operations, compliance with laws, and safeguarding of assets. All of this together is called as IFC. But when auditor is only required to give opinion regarding effectiveness of entities' control over financial reporting, then it is different. So internal financial control is wider. Remember this for MCQ. Internal financial control is wider, whereas internal control over financial reporting is narrower term, restricted to internal control over only books of accounts. Okay? Finished. Here we are done with essay number 610. We'll take a quick 2 minutes break, only 2 minutes break. And we will be back to do our last essay, essay number 550. That's a very small essay. We'll take a quick 2 minutes break, okay? Technical team, 2 minutes break we are taking. quickly tell me and give me a thumbs up. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Okay, let's continue. So we are left with one essay, that is essay 550. But let me just revise for you. We have done essay number 500, audit evidence, where we studied about the whole process and we studied about the inquiry, inspection, external confirmation, that whole 7 procedures, 7 techniques to do any audit evidence. We did essay 501, that was inventory, litigation and claims, and the segment reporting. That was one thing. Then we did essay 505, external confirmation, we did in great detail. Then essay 510, initial audit engagement, which means either it was audited by a predecessor auditor or unaudited. That was internal audit engagement. There the focus is mostly on opening balances correctly brought forward and accounting policies consistently used, and if there is any change, it is properly disclosed. That was 510. External confirmation was all about a positive confirmation request, negative confirmation request, all that part we finished. Then we did essay number 520, that is analytical procedures, where we talked about that how you have to evaluate relationship and understand the relationship between financial data through evaluating financial data and non-financial data. And then you have to investigate further if you have found any kind of abnormal fluctuations. Okay, that was the whole part in which we did trend analysis, ratio analysis, reasonableness test, and structural modeling. So those were the different methods of doing, different techniques of doing analytical procedure. Then we did essay number 530, that is audit sampling, which we completed today. Then we did essay number 610. That is the essay 530, we did only little bit part. The full essay we studied today is only essay number 610, where you are talking about first the objective of internal audit function. It can help in activities related to governance, activities related to risk management, and activities related to internal control. In activities related to internal control, it means evaluation of internal control function, examination of the financial and operating information, then monitoring the operating activities, and also compliance with laws and regulations. That was one main thing. And for an auditor to use internal audit function, you have two options: either to use the work done by the internal audit function or take the direct assistance of the internal auditor. In both cases, you have to evaluate the objectivity, competence, and the systematic discipline approach of the auditor. In case you want to take direct assistance, you need to take 2 types of agreements. First agreement is from the entity that they will not interfere and they will allow the internal auditor to do the job independently. And second agreement you have to do with the internal auditor, that they will maintain confidentiality and they will let us know in case there is any conflict with their objectivity. Yes or no? This is what we have done till now. Full chapter in just 2 minutes. I have given you a wrap up. Now we are on this, we have done in 5 lectures, which means in around 12.5 hours. Okay, we have done this in approximately 12.5. Am I correct? Yeah, 12.5 hours we have devoted to doing this. So now we are on to our last phase, that is essay number 550. Okay. What is the page number? 4 point something last. Yeah. Okay. Essay number 550, related parties. Okay. Let me first explain to you the concept, then we'll go on the essay. Okay. For any entity, the relatives of directors are related party. Yes or no? They are related parties. Okay. If there is any key management personnel, KMP is there, director is there, promoter is there, CEO is there, any person related to them is a related party. But if I have a subsidiary company, is that also a related party? If I am holding company and I have a subsidiary company, can that also be a related party? Yes. If I have a joint venture with another company, can that also be my related party? Yes. So related parties, do not think of them as relatives. There's a difference. Rishtedar is not equal to related parties. Related parties here encompasses a larger definition. So the first thing we need to understand is that transactions with related party, are they illegal? Pehle ye batao. If I'm running a company and I have purchased some raw material from my subsidiary company, is that illegal? First tell me. If I am a director and I have purchased some raw material from my relative who is running a similar company, is that illegal? No. But do they have higher risk of material misstatement than other transactions? Do they have higher risk of material misstatement than a normal other transaction? Yes. So is this essay telling you that as an auditor, related parties are all illegal, all wrong? No. It is telling you to maintain a little bit more skepticism when it comes to related parties, and it guides you that how do you even identify a related party. See, are we dependent on management to help us with this? Firstly, tell me. For an auditor, if I am there, who am I dependent on for the related party? Management itself. So the first thing that this essay tells you, that a related party, who are they? Is as per AFRF. So if Companies Act is applicable on me, then you have to look for the related party definition as per Companies Act. If I am doing audit as per Income Tax Act, then you have to look for definition as per Income Tax Act. If I am running a bank, then I have to look for the definition of a related party as per Banking Regulation Act. Yes or no? Yes or no, students? Okay. So a related party is defined as per the relevant AFRF. But if the AFRF is not correctly and sufficiently defining related party definition, if the AFRF is not doing its job properly, okay? If not, then what to do? Then how do you find a related party? So let's say this is the reporting entity. Now, what do I mean by reporting entity? The entity on which auditor is making a report. Okay. What is the language we will use? Reporting entity. So reporting entity is the entity for which I am making audit report. So if this reporting entity has control or significant influence directly or indirectly on any entity, is that my related party? Quickly tell me. If reporting entity has any kind of control or significant influence directly or indirectly on X, is that my related party? Okay. If some entity, oh God. Yeah, sorry. Yep. So if some other entity, let's say Y, if Y has control or significant influence directly or indirectly, is Y also a related party? Is Y also a related party? If there is another entity called as A, we both are directly not connected, but we both have same controlling party. Will A also be my related party? If we are controlled by same person, are we related party? Quickly tell me, is A also my related party? Yes. So related party is usually an entity on which you have significant influence or control directly or indirectly, or entity who has significant influence and control on your entity, or an entity in which there is some common ownership or common control or common management or common family members. Those are your related parties. So this you can use as a rule of thumb when the AFRF is not clear as to which can be your related party. Okay. Let's say everyone understands Hindustan Petroleum, HPCL, okay, and LIC. Are both run by central government? Are both government companies? So do they automatically become related party? Do they automatically become related party? No. Now let me bring you to the book. A related party is someone who's defined as per AFRF. But when AFRF establishes minimal or no related party requirement, then a person or other entity who has control or significant influence directly or indirectly through one or more intermediaries over reporting entity, other entity over which reporting entity has control and influence directly or indirectly through one or more intermediaries, or another entity that is under common control with reporting entity having common controlling owners whose family members are close and key management. This, please remember this diagram. You can remember the whole definition. Okay. Someone I control, someone who controls me, and someone who's controlled by a common person. That is related party. However, entities that are under common control by a state, national, regional, or local government are not considered related party unless they engage in transactions or share resources which are significant. Please remember this for MCQ. So, will HPCL and LIC be automatically related party? No. But HPCL and BPCL may be related party if they are sharing some common resources and transactions are happening between them. So just because they both are controlled by central government does not make them a related party. Or just because two companies are controlled by state government does not make them a related party. Only if they have significant transactions or they are sharing same resources, not same business. You are confusing, okay? If they are sharing same resources, same transactions with each other, then they are related parties. Okay. So this definition you have to remember. Then how to find the meaning and what does it mean by to control and influence? Okay. What does it mean? So here I am teaching you that if you control someone or you have significant influence, which means you are a related party. Okay. But what does it mean to have influence? Let's say I give you a question. Suppose I have power to decide their financial policies. Does it means I have control? If I have power in a company to decide and govern their financial policies, operating policies, does it mean I have control and influence? Yes. One more. If I have a huge amount of share, is that influence and control? Okay. If I have power to participate, I don't control their policies, but I have enough influence to participate in their decisions. Is that control and influence? I am not the final person taking the judgment, but I am involved in their decisions. Is that control and influence? Yes. Then, if someone is a close family member from my company and their companies, can that be related party? Can that be influence? Yes. If someone is common part of TCWG and management, so if there are same people governing two different companies. Will those be related parties? Yes, simple. So this is the point. These are different examples. So please remember these for MCQs. Okay, MCQs. Control is power to govern the financial and operating policies of an entity so as to obtain benefits. That is control. Influence means power to participate but not to control those policies. Control means I am controlling the outcome. Influence means I can participate. I have power to participate, but I cannot control the outcome. These are some examples. Direct or indirect equity shareholdings. This is the most obvious one. Entity is holding. So someone is holding and हमारी कंपनी में कोई और होल्ड कर रहा है, हम किसी और की कंपनी में होल्ड कर रहे हैं. So first is someone is holding in my company and entity is holding in someone else's company. Okay. So if this is reporting entity, someone is holding in my company. What is this? This is reporting entity. Reporting entity is holding in someone else's company. These are both related parties. If you are being part of TCWG or key management, that is a related party. Being a close family member of TCWG management is a related party. Having any business relationship is also a related party. So you just have to take it very casually. You don't have to like worry too much about it. This is just the basic examples that you have to remember. You will also study AS 18 and company law. So once you study all that, your practical understanding would be much better. In audit, it's a very small portion. But once you study AS 18 and company law and also Income Tax Act, your understanding of practical usage will be much, much better. Okay. Have you studied that part already? Or is that pending? Pending or done? Quickly tell me. Pending. Okay. So once you do it, you will be much, comfortable. Now, all this is okay, but what do I do as an auditor? Okay. What do we do as an auditor? So pay attention. Where did I go? Yeah. Related party transactions are a normal course of business. They may carry no higher risk than similar transactions with unrelated party. However, the nature is such that it gives rise to higher risk of material misstatement. That's it. It's not illegal. It's just more risky. Okay. Why they are risky? Related parties can have complex range of relationship and transaction. Information system may not be effective to identify the transactions with related parties. And related parties may not be conducted under normal market terms and conditions, which means we might give them more discount. We might do barter with them that, okay, you send me your goods. I'll not pay you money. I'll do some training sessions with you. So there can be a lot of barter that happen. All these things make it more risky. First, the transactions can be very complex. Information system may not be effective in identifying everything, and related party transactions may be done under abnormal terms and conditions. All this makes a related party transaction more risky. Okay. So as an auditor, please mention here, this is auditor's procedure. Please mention, okay? I will write down for you. What does the auditor do? He will inquire management. The first and most important thing that we can do is inquire management. What do I inquire? There are three specific things you will ask. Please remember this. Very important. Three specific things you ask. I'll ask you list of identified related parties, including changes from prior period. So I'll ask them not just a list of current years, I'll ask them a comparative analysis. I'll ask them, okay, this year, I'll not just tell them, is saal ki list de do. Don't give just this year's list. This year, they're showing 50 related parties. I'll also ask them, last year, if there were 40, and if this year it is 50, or last year it was 60, and this year it has become 50, then what happened to those 10 people? So you have to ask them for a comparative list, current year's list and changes from the past period. So list mil gayi. So you have a list of related parties. Then you have to ask them to add nature of relationship with related parties. Nature of relationship means they are my holding, they are my subsidiary, they are my joint venture, they are my associate company, they are relative of my key management personnel, they are relative of my TCWG. What is my relationship with them? Am I having control over them? Are they having control over me? Are we both controlled by someone else? What is the nature of relationship with them? So it will be like a list like this, okay? Name, relationship. And third will be very naturally transaction, which means X private limited, relationship, it's my holding company, transaction, purchase of raw material. Like that, you will get a list from the management. This is your first job. Before you do anything else, this is what you need. So, list of identified related parties, nature of relationships, and the third point, what did I tell you? Transactions. So, transactions, what type and purpose. Okay. So this list you have now. What list do you have? List of related parties, relationship with them, and transactions. Remember this table? What auditor inquires about related parties? Name, relationship, and transactions. Okay. So after you have this list, okay, after you have this list, so this list is done. Auditor shall inquire entity, identity, nature of relationship, and transactions, type of transaction, and purpose. Then the auditor shall inquire of management and others within the entity and perform other risk assessment procedures to obtain understanding of controls. आपने मुझे list दे दी. Here I am doing inquiry. Here what am I doing? I am trying to understand controls, which means that what are your control systems? So let's say I am auditor of Green Clean, again we'll take. They have given me a list. I am asking them, how did you come and create this list? How did you come to know that X Private Limited is my related party, but Y is not my related party? Why Y is not there? Why X is there? What is your system to identify? Whose job it is? First tell me, whose primary responsibility it is that all related parties are properly identified and disclosed? Whose responsibility it is that all related parties are properly identified and disclosed? Whose job it is? Management's job, okay? So now that they have given me the list, now I will try to understand their controls. Now tell me, if the controls are very solid, does it mean that the related party list is more reliable? Okay. So I'll ask them about what are the internal controls. So the management, what are the controls they have established to identify, account, and properly disclose related party as per AFRF? Second, who is authorizing and approving transactions and arrangements with related party? Who is authorizing and approving transactions and arrangement outside the normal course of business with related parties? So I need them to answer to me first. What are your controls to identify, account, and disclose all related party? What are your controls to authorize and approve these transactions with related party? And what are your controls to authorize and approve arrangements with related party that are not even your normal business? You are doing something extra for them that is not even your business. Okay. So if you are doing these things, let's say if I am running a business to sell, let's say ghee, that is my job. I'm selling the ghee. And a related party asked me if I can sell them sugar or if I can sell them milk. Is my job to sell milk? Is my job to sell milk? No. What is my company's job? What is my company's business? To sell ghee. But there was a shortage in one subsidiary company, and they asked me to provide them with 100 kgs of milk. They make, let's say their job is to make protein powder. So they wanted to make milk powder out of it. So is that my job to sell milk? Is that our company's business? No. So was that outside the normal course of business? So who approved that you can sell 100 kgs of milk instead of ghee to someone? So if management has to give me the controls that how the related parties are identified, accounted, and disclosed, what is the procedure to authorize and approve related party transaction, and especially what is the process to authorize and approve arrangements that are outside the normal course of business. If this system, if you come to know that for this they have created a system that board of directors meeting will be called, at least 80% should be in favor. Is that a good internal control system? Then only it will be approved. Is that a good internal control system? Yes. Knowing that this internal control system exists, would you feel better as an auditor? Would you feel it is more reliable? Would you feel their list and their disclosure is better? Yes. So first you will inquire the management. What you will inquire? Identity, nature, and transactions. Then you will inquire to management. You will obtain an understanding about the controls. To obtain an understanding, you have to ask the management, how do they identify, account, and disclose? What is the procedure to authorize and approve transactions? And what is the procedure to authorize and approve arrangements outside the normal course of business? Mark this as most important answer. And another important answer is this definition. Okay. This definition can be asked. And this audit procedures. This is basically audit procedures. Okay. Inquiry of management and then other risk assessment procedure. This is other risk assessment procedure. Okay. This much is done. Okay. Consideration for small entities. Now, in small entities, do you think owner is different, management is different, TCWG is different? Are there 3 different people in a small entity? No. And there is more amount of related party transaction. Will you find a detailed internal control procedure? ये सब मैं एक छोटे बिजनेसमैन से जाकर ये सब सवाल पूछूंगी तो आपको क्या लगता है मुझे मिलने वाले जवाब? If I go to a small businessman and ask for all these details, who authorizes, who approves, give me your internal control, do you think I'll get answers? No. So if it's a smaller entity by auditor, where owner himself is manager, there may be no outside member. Internal controls will be less formal. There will be no documented process of related party relationships. Do you think all this will be there? All this will not be there. For such entities, the auditor may obtain an understanding of related party relationships and any controls that may exist through inquiry combined with observation of management's oversight and inspection. तो आपको ही, you yourself will have to do your own inspection, observation. You can chit chat. So through more informal way, you might have to collect information. Is that clear? Here we are more dependent on management or the owner to give us information. If they don't tell us, we'll not know. Let's say your auditor of Tukaram grocery store or a tire store, okay? And there are salaries paid. And there is Jhalloram. Salary paid 6 lakh. If Tukaram does not tell me that Jhalloram is his brother, will I come to know that Jhalloram is the brother? मुझे पता चलेगा झल्लोराम भाई है कि नहीं है? No. So he is paying salary to his own brother. Is that a risk area? Tell me. Tukaram is paying 6 lakh salary to his own brother Jhalloram. But if Tukaram does not tell me that Jhalloram is brother, will I come to know on my own? Will I go and do a DNA test? Ask for the Janam Kundli? No. So if the owner management is not telling me, I will not come to know. So in smaller entities, it is more tricky to find related parties. In big companies, actually, you may be able to find because they have to follow structure and they have to take approvals. There's formalities involved. But in smaller entities, you have to rely on whatever information you can obtain. And if you can't, then you just have to let it go. Okay. How can an auditor verify existence of related parties and transactions? These are examples. From what all can you come to know? So suppose you are owners. We are doing a small, let's say we are doing audit for Tukaram. Tukaram is running a decent tire store business. It's in partnership. It's not a very formal big company. Okay. So if I want to know about related parties of Tukaram and Associates or Tukaram and Sons, what can I do? I can check their income tax returns. I can see if any information has been given to regulatory authorities. If there is shareholder register, if it's a small private limited company, I can check who are the principal shareholders. I can see if any statement of conflict of interest from management and TCWG has been given. If there is any record of entities' investments and pension plans, which means if company has made investments for someone's pension, it means they are of some importance to the company, which means they are related party. Contracts and agreements with key management and TCWG, study them thoroughly. Significant contracts and agreements not in entities' ordinary course of business, study them. Specific invoices and correspondence with professional advisors. So if you have taken continuous discussion with some CA that how to show this related party transaction, from that also you can come to know that company has some complex transactions. LIC. If company has taken LIC on someone, it means they are a significant person. If some specific contracts were renegotiated during the period, it means why were they renegotiated? There was a supply contract for 2 crore rupees and we renegotiated it this year. Why? Why did we give this favor to this person? Is this person related party? Internal audit reports. Documents associated with entities filing with SEBI, like prospectus. Prospectus can also give you details of related parties. So is this some procedure we are studying? These are just examples. These are just examples. So kahan se hame related party ki information mil sakti hai? Remember, income tax return or filings with SEBI. Okay. Then another internal audit report. Okay. If you talk about shareholders, shareholder register you can find. Investments may you can find. If you talk about agreements, agreements with key management and TCWG, agreements not in ordinary course of business, agreements renegotiated. From all these places, you can find related party information. So if you remember at least 6 to 7 points, that is good. Okay. 6 to 7 examples you try to remember at least. All right. Here we are done with our chapter. We studied a lot of essays in this. We are done with the last essay, that is 550 related parties. Everyone clear? Did you understand? Are you sure? When you are revising, are you going to study this as like a one chapter? Are you going to study this like a one chapter? What did I tell you? Divide it into small essay wise. Okay. Because you will feel, okay, I have to study 142 pages for one chapter. No, I have to study 3 pages for related party. That is doable. I have to study 7 pages for essay 505. Okay, I can do that. Okay. So give yourself achievable targets so that you are motivated. All right. We'll take one MCQ. Now that you have studied all essays, let's do a mix MCQ. Okay. Let's do a mix MCQ. Come to page number 4.115. Everyone, don't see the answer. Try to give answer on your own. Pay attention, please. CA Drishti Khandelwal is conducting audit of a company engaged in manufacturing of towels and bedspreads. The company is having its own manufacturing setup. However, it also gets some manufacturing processes outsourced from third parties. The company has 3 locations having substantial quantity of inventory in same city. Besides, due to outsourcing of some processes, inventories are also held in the premises of third parties in the same city. As part of audit process, she is performing many audit procedures required by different standards of auditing. In particular, she is attending physical inventory count process of the company at the year end in accordance with the requirement of SA 501. The inventory of the company, including raw material, consists of natural and dyed yarns, work in progress in different stages, and finished stock of towels and bedspreads. She's also planning to send confirmations to parties to whom company has sold goods. On reviewing trade receivable list, she finds that list also contains large number of parties having small balances. She further finds that these receivables have arisen due to sale of bedspreads to small-time retailers, and possibility of difference in balance as per company's records and as per the records of these small-time retailers is very low. Risk of misstatement in relation to trade receivable has been assessed as low. Besides, there is nothing to suggest that small-time retailers would disregard such requests. While conducting the audit, she is testing controls operating in the company. She's also conducting tests of various items of income and expenditure, as well as balances appearing in balance sheet. She intends to rely upon sampling extensively. Now, based on the above, which of the following statement is most appropriate regarding inventory count? She should inspect the inventory to ascertain its existence and condition of all locations, observe how the company personnel are carrying out count procedures, and perform test counting. She should inspect the inventory to ascertain its existence at all locations, observe how company personnel are carrying out count procedures, and perform test counting. The matter of condition of inventory falls in the domain of an expert only. She should inspect the inventory to ascertain its existence at selected location, observe how company personnel are carrying out count procedures, and perform test counting. The matter of condition is not relative. She should inspect inventory to ascertain its existence and condition on all locations and performing counting of each and every item. Which one is the correct answer, students? Some people are saying C. Some are saying A. What about others? Disclaimer of opinion. Huh? Some answer you should give. Even if it's wrong, does not matter. C. So 3 people, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 people have said C. And 3 people have said A. As of now, majority is winning with C. Now 6 people have said C. 7. Total 10 replies I have received. Okay, so the correct answer is A. I taught you that in inventory, which assertion we are checking? Existence and condition. It's given in the main heading of SA 501. In this also says matter of condition falls in the domain of expert. Automatically wrong. Matter of condition falls in expert. Automatically wrong. Counting each and every item. Automatically wrong. So A ki sahi bacha. Only one is right. A. How many of you got correct answer? Neha, Ankita, Mehak, Gayatri, Surinder, and Prajapati Namrata. So all of you got correct answer. Okay. Next answer. As regards inventory lying with third parties, which of the following statement meets the requirement of SA 501? Please pay attention. She should request confirmation from third parties regarding quantity and condition of inventory held on behalf of the company, as well as request the third parties to allow her to inspect. Both requirements are necessary to be complied. She should request confirmation from third parties regarding quantity and condition held on behalf of the company, or request third parties to allow her to inspect. Compliance of any of these conditions or both is required for the purposes. There is no obligation on auditor if the inventory is lying with third parties. She should request confirmation from third parties regarding quantity, condition, value of inventory held on behalf, or request the third parties to allow her to inspect inventories. Compliance of any one of these is sufficient. So now tell me which one is correct. As per SA 501 only. Tell me which one is correct. D, A, D. B, D. Okay. What else? B, Ankita is saying. Anil is saying D. Kashish is saying B. B. Correct answer is B. Nowhere in SA 501 is anything written about valuation. Here itself I wrote, inventory में क्या check करना है? What do you have to check? Existence and condition. So, you can request the third parties for quantity means existence and condition. Or you can ask them to visit. Anything is okay. If you do this, both is not compulsory. So this becomes wrong. No obligation, fully wrong. Value, wrong. So which is the correct answer left? B. Now are you understanding slowly? Keep in view description regarding trade receivables. Identify the most appropriate. So what did it say about trade receivable? It said that it had many balances which contained large number of parties having small balances. There were small retailers, risk is low, and there is no reason that small retailers would disregard such requests. So this is the information about receivables. So keep in view that this information. She should not plan and design confirmation requests for large number of small parties having balance. She should plan and design positive confirmation request. She should plan and design positive confirmation requests for large number of parties having small balances and meticulously analyze. She should plan and design negative confirmation requests for large number of parties having small balance. Now, which one is the correct answer? When there is large number of small balances, what request do we need to give? D. Now, finally, all of you are correct. Not even one wrong answer. Correct. As regards sampling, which of the following statement is most appropriate with respect to requirements of SA 530? Sampling is used in both test of transactions as well as test of controls. Sampling is used in both test of balances as well as test of controls. Sampling is used in test of details. Sampling is used in test of details as well as test of controls. Which one is correct? This is also very easy one. D, absolutely correct. It is used in both test of details as well as test of controls. So, do you think, now by seeing this, are you getting an answer from a specific point answer? ये कहीं एक point से questions आ रहे हैं या concept से question आ रहे हैं? They are using individual knowledge also. It is using conceptual knowledge also. Both you need. Okay. Since she intends to rely upon sampling extensively, which of the following statement is true about sampling risk? Sampling risk can be eliminated. Increase in sampling risk would lead to decrease in detection risk. Decrease would always be in existence. Very good. That's it. We are done now. I hope you have enjoyed the 4 chapters with me. You have started to understand and build a base for auditing properly. And you have understood my methodology of teaching. So I hope it has been a good experience for all of you. I wish you all the best. Okay. And if you have any questions, I'm here. Otherwise, we can end the class now. Please revise. The only thing you can do is revise. Okay. Thank you, Mehak. That's very sweet of you to tell me. Thank you. Anyone else? Any question? Keep revising. Don't forget. What is the secret of being good at audit? What is the secret? Attend the class and keep revising. Okay, that's all.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, I have a question. Like
Yeah,
in
who is it? I can't see your name.
ma'am Jayesh.
Okay.
Hanji. Ma'am, I have a question. Like if ma'am in exam
Hmm.
we write only essay number without its definition, so it will work or not?
No, the answer needs to be correct. If you have written nothing in the answer that is related to the question except essay number, then no.
No ma'am, no ma'am, that's not I'm asking. Ma'am, like मैं बोला था हम अगर ऐसे नंबर डालें और उसकी डेफिनेशन की जगह जो क्वेश्चन में पूरा आंसर बोला है लाइक अकॉर्डिंग टू ऐसे नंबर दिस एंड बाकी फिर हम लोग को क्वेश्चन का आंसर
That is okay. That is okay.
ओके मतलब उसमें नाम नंबर तो नहीं कटेंगे ना कि हमें ऐसे का डेफिनेशन नहीं दिया मतलब
नहीं। वो क्वेश्चन पे डिपेंड करेगा. ऐसा नहीं है कि हर जगह आपको डेफिनेशन देना ही है.
अच्छा
Thank you, Karan. Thank you. I don't know, Mehak. Any other question that I cannot answer? Okay. Anything else? Okay. Technical team, I think we can end the class today. Thank you, Nikunj. Technical team? Technical team?
भार्गव जी
Technical. I'll try messaging. Hello? हाँ जी. Thank you, everyone. All the best. Good night.